Hey, what's up guys, Chip here, and today I want to talk about using the metashape add-on from Design Magic and some Design Magic inserts and kit-offs to create this really complex die-cast part. And as you can see, it's a pretty difficult modeling assignment, but what we're going to do is show you how you can do this really quickly. Let's look at the topology real quick. This is the topology after I've done everything with it, and this is about 45,000 faces, but we're also going to talk about how we can actually create this kind of topology as well. So here's another topology version that has only 28,000 faces. And we'll talk about how this one was created as well. And so you can actually use this technique to create some fairly low resolution models. In fact, you could take this one and add another decimate on top of it with a planar, and you could actually get it down to probably about 10,000 faces. So anyway, just want to let you know how this workflow works. So let's get started. So first I'm just coming into the scene. I'm just going to delete this cube, and I'm going to turn off my gaffer, which is my camera and my lights, and this ground plane. And I'm going to go into the solids part of KPACKS, and I'm going to just grab one of these obtuse objects like this one, and I'll add that insert, and I'm going to scale it up a little bit, and I'll go into the insert, and I'll look at this solidify, and I'm going to change this to 1. So that means that we know that it's sitting on the ground. So there we have it. And then I'm going to go into, also in the solidify, I'll just hit this thickness, and I'll just drag it down something like this. And Control A, scale, actually just drag the thickness up a little bit, yes, because I want. Okay, and then with that done, let's go to my bevel, and I'm going to just, add a little more bevel. You can see it's changing the outline of this significantly. So I'm going to name this, and I'm going to call this one main. So, and then I'm going to Shift D, duplicate it, and then right click and leave that one in place. And with this one set up, I want to make sure I go into my preferences and turn on these edit mesh tools. And this has got a really cool feature, and once you turn it on, save the preferences, and I'll show you what it is. I'm going to tab into this, and let's go into edge mode 2 and select everything. You can see all these edges, and if I hit Control E, which is my edge menu over here, there's this offset, extrude, and move. I'll hit the move, and it just moves all those edges out. How cool is that? And I can come into here and just adjust that however I want to, something like that. So that's cool. So tab, let's go to 1, and let's just grab this one, and let's move him out, something like this. And then we tab, we can see that we've got something a little different there. And that's good. So now that we have that done, let's go ahead and look at this view. And with this selected, let's adjust it a little bit. I'm going to adjust this up a little bit, and then in solidify, I'm going to drop it down. So we have something along the lines of this, and that looks good. So next thing I'm going to do is let's go ahead and let's add a cylinder. And I'll just grab this object, and again, I'm not adding a union or a subtraction. I'm just doing all this without any booleans. And I'll just move this, hit the N key, move it, somewhere where I want it to be in top view. Something like that might work. Scale, yeah, G, move it around. And then I can probably, let's just go ahead and put that down on the ground. Z, location, Z. Then we can just, in the solidify, again, just, thickness, move it down, something like maybe that. Go into this bevel down here, we'll turn that bevel on. I get in the habit of turning this on, but because we're going to be voxelizing this, it really doesn't matter. And so let's go ahead and grab another cylinder. Oh, by the way, one thing I should mention is that if you look at this, let's right click on it, let's shade flat. Let's shade everything flat. Make sure everything's shaded flat so we can see the segments. We want to make this as high as possible. So I'm going to go into bevel. Instead of 12, I'm going to make it like 64. So look how tight that is. And the reason for that, I'll do that for these two, 8, let's do 24, is because when we voxelize this, it doesn't matter how many faces, because the voxelization will reset the faces as it's voxelizing. So we want something very, very high resolution. Let's go ahead and let's add some more cylinders. So I'll go into kit ops, and I'm going to add an insert, and I'm going to put it in here. And I want these to be quite a bit smaller, maybe something like this. And I think I'll drop them down a little bit like this and move them up a little. And once I have that done, I'll go top view, and I'll just say Shift D, and I'm just going to put these where I think they're going to be interesting, right? So something like that. We'll just have a few of them, drop them around like that. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to add a again, from the solids collection, I want to add this screw modifier. I want to have it running down this surface right here. What I'll do is I'll first add this insert here and let's put it on the side, something like there. Go to top view. Let's go into local mode and let's kind of stretch this about the distance that we want it to be, something like that. That's good. And in screw mode, let's just, again, we're going to turn off smooth shading so we can see what we're doing. And instead of step 48, let's do 64, get it finer. And then let's just rotate this, RG. So I'm going to rotate it so it just lines up perfectly with this. Now I want to edit the points of this, but you know what? We're at a weird angle. So what I'll do is I'll Alt-D, which creates an instance of this, Alt-D, and moves it anywhere. And then Alt-R sets up the actual orientation for us to default. Now I can go tab into here, and now you can see that it's pretty easy just to, you know, let's do this. I want to add that out to here. Now notice I just flipped all my faces, so I need to hit this flip button right there to fix that. And then I can just select all of these and right click and say subdivide, and let's give us, I don't know, 6 of these guys, something like that, you know. And if I want to delete any, I can just say Control X delete. And so let's just start, you know, massaging this. Oops. Okay, so let's grab these two. Let's grab these two and move them out, something like this. And this goes in. And that goes in, something like that. And maybe we can take these two and move them out as well. And like that, and maybe down quite a little bit less like that. Once I've got that, I'm going to hit M, move this to a new collection. I'm going to call this one proxy. So that's going to be my proxy collection. I'm not going to cut holes in them because I'm going to cut holes in these things a little bit later. Let's go back and just for the heck of it, I'm going to tab into this and let's move this one up. I want it a little bit tighter than that. Okay, there. And that's good. Okay, so, and now that we're in proxy, I'm going to turn off proxy. I'll go back in here and I can see that I've got my object in there and it's way too large, as you can see. So I'm going to just take this and scale it down. I want one 90 degrees just like that. Shift D, and let's put it here, and let's do R, and hold the control key down, get 90 degrees, and G, and I think I'll put that one. Just tab these, and you know, with this done, because we're in local mode, I can just move these. So there we have that. So you can see this goes really fast because I'm not actually doing any booleans, right? Lastly, let's go stay in this mode again. We'll scroll down all the way down and get this vertex path. And I'm going to add, you know, some bosses and some ribs to this thing. And so I'll select this object and I'll add the insert. Let's leave the scale alone. So I'm going to move this. This boss is going to go down. Yeah, it'll go almost to the bottom. No, we'll drop it here in this area. And then on our screw, turn off smooth shading. And as you can see, as I adjust the screw dimension, I'm lowering it, right? So I'm going to lower it down to something like that. And then if I go to solidify and adjust the thickness, I'm doing that. So you can see I'm going to move that to like there. And if I go to bevel and adjust this, I'm adjusting the roundness of things, right? So you can see how that works. So now I'll go to top view and I'll tab into this, Alt-Z, and I'll just drag all these and say X and delete these vertices. And what I'll do is I'll just drag this one and I'm going to say G, and I'm going to move him right in one of these bosses. And I will say E, and I'll extrude them out. And, you know, in this case, I'm going to just take them all the way across to this one. And then I can say E, and extrude this one out. And he's going to go kind of a crosswise. Let's just drag this over here so he's actually a little bit on the outside of this one. And in fact, I might just go back into my solidify and just make these a little fatter. There we go. And then with this, let's say Shift D, I'll just duplicate it. And I want this to be here. I'm going to move him just like that to here. Okay, now I got these set up. I'm gonna just grab a few of these and I'll go into our bevel settings at the top we'll go into our weighted vertices settings and I'm gonna go ahead and add them to 1, right? So you can see that, when I do that, I can start to kind of get this, this kind of a round shape going on over here. And now that we've got that done, that's kind of our rib pattern. Let's select everything we have here, okay, and let's move this to a new collection. I'm gonna call this template. Okay, and now that this is selected in template, what I'm gonna do is I wanna kind of just test out my metashape. So I'll take template and I'll right click over here and I'll say select objects. And I'll say Shift D and then right click to leave them where are, and I'm gonna move this to a new collection. I'm gonna call this metashape. Okay, and then I'm gonna turn template completely off. So template's off now, metashape is on. So with metashape, I'm gonna select everything and go into KitOps, and I use KitOps for this because I want to convert things to mesh, and KitOps has some special code that always gets it right. Not all of the ways to convert objects to mesh get them right. The KitOps will. So basically, I'm going to look at this and say, yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's convert everything to mesh. Now that they're all converted, I want to shift click on the main one, right? So if I look over here, main is selected, and I'm going to say Control J, which joins everything, and then I'm going to basically shade flat everything. So now we have this, which is a one solid mesh. Keep in mind that this is not Boolean, right? If I hit this L, I'm just selecting that. So there's no Booleans going on in here. And that's why this workflow works so well, is that you don't need Booleans. So let's take this, and we're going to now go into our Design Magic Metashape add-on. And with this selected, we're going to add Metashape. And it's going to create this kind of gooey mess. So first things first, I'll set this to 0, and then I'll just start hitting more. And I'll get to the max, because it won't allow us to go any higher, in case you have a slow computer. It just won't allow us to go higher than that. But I want to go higher. So I'm going to go 0.005. And that looks actually pretty darn good. Now, I might even go even better, 0.003. Your mileage may vary. I'll do that. And then with smoothing, I'm going to set it to 30. And the voxelation goes pretty fast, but smoothing after voxelation takes a little bit of a time. So see how that works. So there we have, there's our first pass at this. And so let's go ahead and power save that. It's not quite as doughy as I want it to be, but that's fine, because what I'm going to do, go back into KitOps, and let's just go ahead and convert this to a mesh. So basically applies this remesh modifier and this smooth modifier. Okay, now that's done. I'm going to go back into Design Magic, and I'm going to add Metashape to this. So I'm basically metashaping the previous metashaped object. And remembering the settings that I just had, I'm going to go ahead and apply those directly, right? So I'm going to go turn visibility off, and let's just set these to 30 and tab 0.003. And then we turn Metashape visibility back on. So this will take a while also. Now my goal is to get this mesh down to about 200,000. We have right now 1,000,004 faces. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to apply these settings. So I'm going to just hit the apply all with this selected, and it'll probably do the same thing as convert to mesh on KitOps. But sometimes, especially when you have a long list of modifiers, this won't work correctly. So that's why I don't always use apply all. So anyway, so you can see we have about 1,000,004 faces. Let's look at the wireframe. So look how dense that is. Incredibly dense. I want to reduce this before I start doing some Boolean stuff, because this is going to take a long time if I don't. So what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll apply a decimate modifier. And I'm going to set this first pass, I'm going to try 0.1. So I've got 1,000,004. I want to get down to a couple hundred thousand. A couple hundred thousand work pretty nicely on it. So let's just go ahead and see what this looks like. Okay, so now we're down at 287,000. Maybe I'll try 0.05. Okay, now we're down at 143,000, which which is actually pretty good. Let's turn off wireframe and look at it. And it looks like the model looks pretty darn nice at 143. We're going to reduce it further, but for now, this is where we're going to start. The next thing I want to do is I want to create some cutters for us. So let's talk about that. So I'm going to turn this off, the metashape off. I'm going to go back into our template, turn it back on, and I'm going to go back into KitOps. And now I'm going to use the cutters, right? So the first cutter that I'm going to use is going to be this 32 with this little bevel on it. So the way this works is first let's select everything and let's remove KitOps properties, because you can't add an insert to something that's already an insert. So with that done, I'm going to basically hit this add insert. I'm going to go over here and select this add insert, and let's move it down. And I don't care if it's cutting all the way through, because these cutters are going to cut through that mesh we just created. So I'm going to just go something like this. Okay, I don't want to scale it any further because KitOps is going to remember exactly what we've done. So I'll just come over here and say add insert. And you know, if you're not snapping to the center of face, make sure that your face snap is selected over here. Add insert, boom. All of our holes are cut out for that. Let's go to this end, and I'm going to hit add insert here. And now I want to hit V for vertex, and I can scale it up a little bit if I want to. And each one of these can be done in an individual way. Okay, and then lastly, let's go ahead and add an insert to this object here. And to do that, I'm going to go scroll all the way down to the bottom and add this screw modifier. And I'll just go ahead and add insert to this. And I want to hit the F for face and scroll down. And let's get it, I don't know, something like maybe that. And then I'll go to one front view, tab into that. And let's grab all these and delete those vertices. And let's grab this one right here and just move it up. And then we'll say E, and I'm just going to kind of wing this a little bit here. E, 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 and E. So, and if I look at this, you'll see that it's flipped, which I don't want that to be. So I'm going to basically go in here to the screw modifier and make sure that I'm flipped in the right way. If I hold the Alt, Control, Shift, Z, I can toggle back and forth between solid, wireframe, and bounding box. And the reason that's possible is because of this KitOps Toggle VP Display add-on, which comes free with KitOps and KitOps Free, KitOps Pro and KitOps Free. This comes free with it. Okay, so there's another couple cool things that it does. Let me show you one of them right now. So I'm toggling back and forth. I'll go into my front view. I'll go into X-ray view. I'll edit, and you'll see that, you know, as you remember, I sketched those things and they weren't quite lining up right. So I can select this one and this one, and if I hit Control Alt Z, it'll line those up, right? Take this one, Control Alt Z, line those up. Control Alt Z, you know, line those up. Control Alt Z, line those up. And then these, you might say Control Alt X, and that will line those up. So, and let's just grab this one. This is Control Alt X. And to get Y, it's Control Alt C, because it's too hard of a stretch to do Control Alt Y. So I use Control Alt C for that. But anyway, that's a really nice feature. And not only does it work here, but also works in the UV editor, when a lot of times you're trying to line up your verts in the UV editor with a map. So that works great too. So anyway, now that's done. Let's make sure that we're all set there, and everything looks good. So now I'll turn off template, and I'll set all these, and I'm gonna move these into a new collection. I'm gonna call this cutters, and with the main one selected right there, I'll say convert everything to a mesh, and then Control J, which is basically join everything. So now, everything's in one mesh in our cutters. With that done, let's go back into our metashape. And as you remember, we left our metashape with a decimate on it, and I'm going to go ahead and apply that. Let's power save this. And now we can look, and we're going to see that we have 147,000. Now this is almost, perfect. If I want to go a little farther, I can add another decimate on top of this, and I can get it even smaller. So let's try that. I'm going to say 0.3, again, and let's see what happens when I do that. So now I'm starting to get some artifacting I can see in here, and I'm at 43,000. And that may not be a problem, especially for this kind of a model, because one thing is we can add a weighted normal, shade smooth, and auto smooth it. And we add a weighted normal, and that will basically smooth things out quite nicely. And that actually looks pretty good. So that's not 43,000, which I might just say, let's just stick with that. Let's just go ahead and let's apply these. Actually, let's not apply the weighted normal, but we're going to apply the decimate now. Now, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to select our cutters and select our object, and I'll say Command minus, and I'm going to cut into it. And you can see now we have all these little cutouts. You know, all we need now to do is just render this guy up. So let's go ahead and just do that real quick. So I'm going to go in here and set up my scene. Maybe something like that might be nice. And so you can see we just need to change the material. So with the material set like this, I'm going to go into my EEVEE materials. So I have some good EEVEE materials. I'll grab this Steel Dirty. We'll add that material to this, and you'll see that's what happened. And so that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and jump up into a Cycles view, see what that looks like. Looks actually really good. And then I want to add that brass color, right? So I'm going to basically select this, which is our cutter, and I'll go in and EEVEE materials. I'm going to say this, let's do a brass shiny and add that material to that. It doesn't show up, but if I select on this and I go into my materials and I just go ahead and add another one and make sure that that's that brass shiny, and you'll see that everywhere that cutter comes in, that brass shiny picked up, right? And then lastly, we'll just, for fun, we will add from Design Magic, you know, a decal. So let's add something, anything we want, you know, some little text or whatever. Let's grab that, and let's go into preview mode, add insert, and I can hold the Alt key down and rotate it around if I want. So that's good, something like that. Hit the end button, and of course, because it's a KitOps decal, I can do some interesting things with it. I can basically, you know, give it a little edge wear if I want to, and change the color of it. So let's do something like this, something like that. Okay, and let's go back to our view, and there's our final model. I want to make this just a little less shiny, so I'll come into my Steel Dirty, and I'll go in here, and you see it says roughness amount 0.220. I'm going to hold the Shift key and drag it up just a little bit, 0.26, something like that. That's good. And then in my case, I have this empty set to the lights in here, so I can R, Z, and move this around until I get whatever lighting I want. Something like, yeah, like that. That looks pretty good. So, and if I hit F12, we get the finished rendering. So one last thing, what if you're trying to create this as a game asset model? What would you do then? So let's talk about that. So if I was going to try and make this with some proper topology, I would come back in here and select my object in this metashape, the main one, and I would use the quick remesh tool to basically remesh this with quads. So let's take a quick look at what my topology looks like. Turn this off. So this is what the topology looks like currently. I don't have any cutters applied at this point, right? So what I'll do first is I'll select my mesh and I'll go into my modifiers, and I'm going to delete my cutter because I want to topologize this without those cutters in there if I can. So I'm going to set this up to maybe 10,000 up here. And I keep detect hard edges by angle off. So everything else is adaptive size and everything. So let's just do this and we'll hit the remesh button. And down here, we're seeing the progress. And there you can see the topology, which actually looks pretty good. And I'm going to come in here and, yeah, I'll leave that Steel Dirty there. So that's what it looks like. So that actually looks pretty good. So now I've got it down to 27,000 faces, which is actually good for a model this complex. So next, I'll just go ahead and select this, and then this, and Control minus, and basically let's get our Boolean subtraction added to this. Turn off this, and you can see that that's what that did. And if I look at this material, you'll see I still have the brass shiny, but it's got this brass shiny 1 because that's what the quad remesher added. So I need to go back in and just add this brass shiny on it. So now we're good. So So that's a way that if you want to, it's a paid add-on, but if you want to, you can basically create this object. Let's call it wireframe. You can see, see how nice that is. That's our wireframe view. Now, one thing, cooperative measure won't work on a non-metashape model. I've tried it and it won't. So you really have to metashape first, and then you add cooperative measure. And now we have, now we have an object that I would actually create a KitOps insert with. Thanks for watching. Hope this was fun for you. It's fun for me to make, and we'll see you online. Bye.